Hello, welcome, glad you're here. This is Jennifer McGuire. Today's video has a lot of information. First and foremost, I wanted to share with you a technique for using the little negative bits and pieces from an intricate die cut to create another element or another card. This is a great way to keep some of the things that you create from going to waste. I also in this video am going to show you gloss sprays and how much fun they are for creating beautiful, vibrant backgrounds. Now, I'm only going to talk about the gloss sprays a little bit. There's so much you can do with these, and I have more videos planned with them. Today, I just wanted to use them to color my die cuts and make something bold and fun. At the end of this video, I will also have 3 bonus cards, the ones you see here, that focus on using those gloss sprays to create super fast cards. But let's get started with the focal point of today's video, which is this positive and negative die cut card. I will start by using the gloss sprays, and then we'll do the die cutting. These are the Dina Wakley gloss sprays. These are incredibly different than other sprays that I have used in the past because they are an opaque acrylic spray. So it's almost like you're spraying acrylic paint, the paint that you can paint on something that you can't see through. But it's in a spray form and it dries with a glossy finish. And they are so much fun to use. And there are many techniques that you can do with them. I'll share those in the future. Today, we're just going to use them to create some bold cardstock, color some cardstock, and do some die cutting. Now, these are water soluble when wet, but permanent when dry. I recommend using a well-ventilated area when spraying these, and I like to spray mine into a box so I don't get overspray on my work surface. You want to shake the bottles really well before using. There's a little ball inside to make sure it's nice and mixed when you shake. Here I'm just layering some of the sprays. I'm using greens and blues so that we can create some fun feather die cuts from them. Now you can use a lot of this and you'll see that these little cells form. See those little like circular dots where it seems like the color's pushing away? When you layer a lot, that happens and it creates really cool effects. Now you can spray other sprays with this. You can spray water on it as I'm doing here. You can let this dry and then put more on top. So many things you can do. But today, I'm just showing you that by spraying these quickly and setting them aside to dry, you can get really unique backgrounds that are especially fun to do with die cutting. So here's another one. While I have my supplies out, I'm going to go ahead and make several backgrounds and save some of them for later. Also, it's good to spray more than you need so that if you mess up one, you always have a backup. See how those little cells or those little circles are forming when you layer these together or you spray enough of it? It is amazing how cool this does effects without having to do anything. Now, if you want to kind of move the color a little bit or dry it, I use my air blower from Tim Holtz. I don't like to use a heat gun with my sprayed backgrounds. It's really best to just set it aside to dry. Now remember, after it dries, you can add more on top. But really today, we're going with the basics of just spraying it and leaving it. Here's one that I let dry, and I'm going to add more on top. Remember, these are opaque sprays. So when you put it down, it'll block the color behind it. Opaque means that you really can't see through it. So if you aren't happy with an area, you can spray over it. You can build up that color. If you want to kind of move it a little bit or blend it a little bit, you can add some water while it's still wet. Again, I will do a lot more with these in future videos. There are so many fun things you can do. And remember, I'm using bright colors today, but there are softer colors or more vintage looking colors in her palette in case you want to try a different look. But look at how just spraying these down creates really cool effects. And watch as I use the air blower to just blow air on it. It helps to make those little cells or circles bigger and create an even better looking background. Now, there are so many different types of sprays on the market, and I haven't really used a whole lot of them. A lot of them are very similar. I do like my Distress and Distress Oxide sprays. You could use those with these too. But these gloss sprays are so different than others because of the cool effects that you can get and because you get this beautiful glossy finish. So stay tuned. I will have more videos on these, but I did want to just show you this today as I thought this technique would be great for creating fun, colorful pieces that we can die cut for today's technique. I just really get excited when I find a product that is fun and different to use, and I can use it with products I already have. Okay, so let's get on with today's technique, and this is to use the positive and negative pieces of a die cut to create two elements. You could create two cards if you wanted to. I'll start by covering the back of our glossy sprayed cardstock piece with a piece of Altenew double-sided adhesive sheet. I love these adhesive sheets. I bought tons of them when they were on sale over the holidays. This stuff works great with die cutting. So I just use my bone folder to really press it onto the back of our glossy piece. Now for die cutting, I'll be using the new Altenew Wispy Feathers layered die set. I love this set. There are two different feathers, detailed feathers, and then their background die. I'll be using the two on the right. So we have the intricate feather and then the solid feather. I'll start by cutting the solid feather from white cardstock. So I have that ready for the technique. You can use whatever die cut machine you want. Now I have the solid white cardstock feather, and I'm using the negative space of that to pick what area of my glossy cardstock I want to die cut from. And I just love, look at that, isn't that beautiful? Even just a solid die cut from this background would be great. I decided that the whole background was good enough to get two feathers from it, so I'm going to move over there to the right and cut the intricate feather from this area, and I can save the leftovers. Now we'll run this through our die cut machine, but I'm going to put this on slow motion because I think this is something that's really helpful with getting a good die cut. I put my plates together, doesn't matter what machine you use, just follow the instructions. Then I flip it over so that the die's cutting edges are facing up when you run it through your machine. I find that always cuts a bit better. And also when you take it out, you can see my die is still in there, and I can carefully take the negative space away from the die and leave all the die cut pieces in the die. So all of the negative pieces and the outline of this die cut are in place in the die, which helps with this technique. Now I'm going to remove just the outline of this feather. Now remember, this die cuts the outline of the feather, and there's lots of little negative leftover pieces there in the die. I'll leave all those negative pieces in the die. We'll get to that in a moment. But right now, here is the outline die cut as it was intended with this die set. And remember, the adhesive is already on the back, so I can just stick it right onto the solid white die cut. So this is just like putting on a sticker. One of the things I like about the Altenew adhesive sheets is you can kind of press it down and it'll stick, but you can still move it. Once you're happy with the position, you just use a bone folder to really press it down, and then it'll stick for good. So I have it all laid down here. I think it looks good where it is. So I'll just flip it over, press it with the bone folder to make sure it sticks. I like to flip it over so I don't accidentally mess up the intricate die cut when I'm pressing on it. So there we have our first die cut. This is what it was really intended to do. But I have all those negative pieces still stuck in the die that I want to put to good use. So I am just using a paper piercer here to pull the release paper off the back of these little negative pieces. Now, because this cardstock was thick and it had the adhesive on the back, so it was super thick, when I ran it through my die cut machine, these pieces kind of want to stay in the die cut, which is really doing me a favor for this technique. So I just go through and remove the release paper from all the die cuts. So now in there we have our glossy cardstock with the adhesive on the back, ready to go and add to the other white feather solid die cut that I have over on the right. So this is a great way to use the positive die cut, which is on the left, and the negative, which we're about to put on the right. So I've gone through and removed the release paper from all these little bits. It took me a few minutes, but not too bad. You could use a less intricate die if you prefer, but I think this gives beautiful results. Now I'll take my white solid die cut and press it onto this die, and it'll grab all of that exposed adhesive of those negative pieces. I'll really press these firmly with my finger because I want to transfer those little die cut pieces to the cardstock and take it out of the die. Another thing you can do is use the side of your paper piercer to kind of press those little die cut pieces down so it catches the cardstock behind it. Or you can use like a Q-tip to push in there. Or if you have bigger openings, like bigger negative die cut pieces, you could just use your finger to do so. But some of these are kind of tiny and my finger wouldn't really make much of a difference. So after I've pressed all those little die cut pieces, I can remove the die. And look at this, I have all my negative die cut pieces stuck to that white feather. So we have the reverse of the one over on the left. Now, if any of the little negative pieces didn't transfer, you can just do those by hand. Then flip it over and really press that down with a bone folder. Now, this little centerpiece came out of the die, so I'm just adding that one by hand, and I'll press that in place too. And I love, actually, the look of this one on the right even more than the one on the left. So it was definitely worth the time it took, which really wasn't that long, maybe 10 minutes to create that element. Now, I'm going to use these two together on a card, but you could definitely use them for two different cards. You could do this with background dies, and I will link to a video showing that up here on the top right if you want to check it out. And look at that beautiful, colorful, glossy finish thanks to the sprays we used. Next, I added some color over these layered die cuts. I felt the white was a little too much contrast with the colorful die cuts on top. So I'm sticking them both onto my Brutus Monroe Stick and Stamp mat. I like to ink on this because it'll hold the die cuts in place as I apply ink. I'm using dye ink from Altenew and an Altenew blending brush and applying some teal and green on top. But you could use any dye inks that you want for this. You could use Distress ink, Distress Oxide ink. And what happens is that glossy cardstock that we created with the sprays, that will resist the ink we put on top. So I can wipe the excess ink off the top of this, and really the ink is only sticking to the white cardstock. And I just think this gives such a beautiful result. Very easy to do, and so there will be a lot of great techniques you can do with the glossy sprays because they are a resist. Now to clean my mat, I just wipe it quickly with a wet cloth and it's good to go again. Now I thought I'd also add a little shimmer to these. So I have my Tim Holtz Distress Mica sprays. I had this out for another video, so I thought I'd just go ahead and spray a little on to these die cuts. So before using, I'll give it a quick shake and then I'll put my die cuts into my spray box. And instead of doing a full spray, which will kind of give a mist, I'm doing partial pumps of the pump on the top of it. So it kind of does a splatter. So we'll have some gold splatter on top of these die cuts. If you spray a little too much, you can wipe it away while it's still wet, but a little goes a long way. And look at that. You've got the glossy shine and now that little bit of metallic shine too. Okay, so to turn this into a card, I did die cut 4 additional white solid feathers, and I glued 2 to the back of one of our colored feathers and 2 to the back of the other. This just gives it a little dimension and really makes this stand out even more. Now for the note card itself, I used this new Altenew swirly die, and I cut it twice. I just thought this would add some interest to the background. I wanted to get the placement so it was kind of symmetrical on the background. So I am drawing a pencil line right along the center of this 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece. That will help me to get kind of a symmetrical look with this die. This tip is really helpful whenever you have a die that isn't big enough to cover a whole background. You can do this to make it look like it was a huge die that was meant to cover a background. So now we can erase that pencil line in the middle, and here we have a fun die cut background, which I just think will be a nice backdrop for our 2 main feathers. Now I did create a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch top folding note card from Gina K Whisper cardstock. Now Whisper cardstock is like a soft warm gray, and I thought that would just make it so that this die cutting on the background that we did in white stood out a bit more. I really like light gray cardstocks because it just adds a little touch of color, little bit of contrast for when you're creating kind of a tone-on-tone white background. Now we can add our 2 feathers. We have the positive and the negative of those die cuts, and I like that they are a little different. I then added a sentiment. This is from the Altenew Hello and Hugs die set. The die set has both the words hello and hug and the shadow for each. I cut hello from gold cardstock and then the shadow from white, and I'm gluing that right on top of our feathers. Now for a little sentiment strip with that, I used this Altenew Paint a Flower Rose Outline stamp set. I use this one a lot for the sentiments. I just gold heat embossed and warm hugs on a white sentiment strip and glued that right on top of the hello. Now I finished this off by adding some Trinity Stamps gold satin baubles. I like that the gold on these is kind of muted and it matches the muted gold cardstock and embossing powder that I used for the sentiment. So I scattered those along the background and there we have our completed card. So with this technique, we're making sure to put to good use those little negative die cut pieces that we usually throw away. This allows us to create a second element for the same card or another piece for another card. Now I have done this with background dies in the past, so if you're looking for more ideas, I will link to that video here at the top right and at the end of this video. This is a great way to really get more from your supplies when you're creating. And I love that glossy shine that we get using those gloss sprays, and it took no time at all. And of course, I picked a matching envelope, and I always link now to my envelope sources in the description below. Okay, now I have 3 bonus cards for you that were very quick to pull together. They do not use that positive negative die cut technique that I used on the last card, but they do use the gloss sprays. And I had this die that I really wanted to use with these sprays and show you how fast it is. This time I decided to use some pink, blue, and purple gloss sprays, and then also a silvery mica spray, distress mica spray. So this time I'm doing a bigger piece of cardstock. So this is 5.5 by 8.5. So I'll be able to create 2 backgrounds out of it. And again, I am just experimenting. When you get a new product like this, you just want to go to town with it and try things. Once you kind of get the hang of how they spray and how they apply to your paper, then you can jump into more techniques, which we'll do in another video. Now, I've played with these a lot off screen, but I wanted to show you many of the different looks that you can get. Now, you could do a light spray and kind of get a mist of color in the background. You could do a half pump of the nozzle and get like those blue splatters. You could layer lots so that you don't even see the white cardstock behind. There are many different ways you can do these sprays. Here I'm adding in that silver mica spray just to do some silver splatters here and there. I do encourage you to stop every once in a while and set it aside to dry, because that will allow you to see what you have. And if you want to change it, you can spray over it because these are opaque sprays. Now here I'm just doing a fine mist, and you can see the beautiful backgrounds you can get. You could even do this on colored cardstock if you want to. Now I decided to add more to this, but do know you can keep it that kind of misty look if you prefer. But if you want to see those little cells or those little kind of circles forming, you want to layer quite a bit of it. So just spray enough on it that you can see those start to form, then set it aside, let it dry, and it'll do its own magic. So here are some of the backgrounds that I just created. You can see that we have like this mist look over on the side, so you can keep it light or you can make it heavier. You can also see the mica spray that I added, and that this gives a glossy finish. It is super cool. It's hard to believe it started with white cardstock. Here's one where I let it do its own magic by just spraying a bunch on it and letting it dry. So now let's use these to create some quick cards. Again, these were half a piece of cardstock, so I can cut them in half, and I have 2 pieces for 2 cards that are 4.25 by 5.5 inches. To use these bold backgrounds to create a bold but simple card design, I use the new Altenew Edge Wildflower die. This will cut my panel into 2 pieces that I could use for 2 cards, although I ended up only using half of it. On the half I picked, I put liquid adhesive, and then I added it to a 4.25 by 5.5 inch white note card. I love that contrast between that bold pink and the white behind it. Now I got smart on the third one, and I put the double-sided adhesive on the back of our glossy paper before I die cut it. And you can see how easy it went down onto this white cardstock, and I can just weed out these little pieces. Now these little pieces, I could have done that positive negative die cut technique that I showed you earlier. It would work great with this die, but at this point I just wanted to create 3 bold cards very quickly as I was running out of time in my day. For a sentiment on these, I chose to use the new Altenew Magnolia Ballerina stamp set. There are lots of beautiful sentiments in here, but I wanted to show you it because it's really a great design. See that large outline image? They also have layering stencils available to color that very quickly. They also have a die that will cut that out very quickly, and they have an embossing folder that lines up. So you could stamp and then use the embossing folder. You could use the embossing folder and then use the stencils. It's one of those great product designs that I'm loving seeing from companies where you can use multiple things together or use them separately. It's nice to have those options. Everyone prefers different products, so to have them all available for you to pick and choose is really helpful. Now here are the 3 cards that I ended up with. So you can see how they're a little bit different, even though I used the same sprays on all of them. You can see I stamped a simple sentiment in the bottom corner, and I did not add any gems or anything to this. So these are pretty flat cards, very little dimension to it. But because of the bold contrast, the detail of that die, and that glossy finish, I feel like it's good to go. So you could actually create a bunch of these if you wanted to in different colors. You could make a set of cards like this to give to someone as a gift. But I just needed some basic hello cards, and I thought these worked. There you can see the finer mist, which I think is a beautiful result too. And of course, the matching envelopes really make these pop. All right, there you have a fun way to use the gloss sprays and also how to use positive and negative die cut pieces together. And wouldn't you know it, my neighbors just started cutting down some trees and making a lot of noise right at the end of this voiceover, so good timing. Anyways, supplies are linked below in the YouTube description. A couple other related videos that I mentioned are linked here at the end. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate the time you share with me. Have a good day.